Hello,
Hello.
everybody. Broadcasting to you live from the spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, somewhere in between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. My name is Brian Engelman. That is Mike Bara. And this is the Strictly Football Show on the Unhappy Hour. Thank you so much for joining us. He is a Seattle Seahawks fan. I am a Cleveland Browns fan. I am living in hell, but we'll get to that. Thank you for finding us, and we're here to talk about all things professional football, occasionally delving into other aspects of football, but trying to keep it mostly fixated on football. Mike, we do a good job about keeping it 95, 98%
I
about
think
football.
we do. It's, by the way, it's the Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy. That's
The
about as big as we get. But yeah,
Orion
the
spiral arm.
Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy is where we're coming to you from today.
Okay. So I should just say, broadcasting to you live from the Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America.
There you go. Other than that, it's awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm a stickler for accuracy on that, right?
No, I'll take it. Not that mine was off. It was just there is yet another
another layer to the description, right? Because it's like the Milky Way galaxy, the Orion spiral arm, the solar system, the planet Earth. It's like a hierarchy, right?
Yeah, it absolutely is, and it's like the Russian dolls, the nesting dolls. You take one out, and you take one out, and you take one out. It's just kind of zooming in a little closer, a little closer.
There you go, exactly. And I was going to say, if you are in hell, I am in purgatory, because the same thing just keeps happening to the Seahawks every freaking year, and it looks like it's going to happen again. So we'll see.
Well, yeah, living in mediocrity is a tough spot to be, and that's where, as a Browns fan, we're not even. I mean, we're dreaming of mediocrity. We're sitting it with the worst record in football after 8 weeks here, so it's kind of dicey. I do have to say, but I'm thinking let's jump into the games. What were we on, week 7? It's only showing me.
I thought it was week 8. We're Seahawks are 4-3, so this is week 8.
So I'm here on ESPN. I'm clicking on the scores. It's supposed to be showing me. Okay, week. Oh, there we go. I had to click it here, not there. Let me share the screen, folks. And let's walk through what we learned last week. And then we're going to get betting tips. Make sure everybody knows you have betting tips coming up.
Jim Mitchell, my friend Jim Mitchell, former Las Vegas police officer, with his betting tips. He lives here in Vegas, so he knows whereof he speaks.
Okay, I'm here for it. I'm looking forward to it. Also, Mike, tell people where to find you online real quick and about the other shows you do so that we can get that out of the way.
My website is mikebara.blogspot.com, or just Google Mike Bara, B-A-R-A. No, just one R, not two. And it'll bring up my blog spot right away. That's got links to all the videos, all the podcasts I do. Tell the Truth Wednesday, Monday Morning News Update, Toxically Masculine Tuesday, on which Brian is a designated pinch hitter. Who comes in, a
utility infielder. I can play short second.
I feel like 5 of us, the shows would take 3 hours if we all had to get a word in. So it's we got 4 guys there, but Brian, you're definitely qualified as masculine enough. And also, you can find me on Real News Live with Mike and Jen on Rumble. That's important. And of course, for the football stuff, Seahawk Boy Mike Bara on YouTube, Seahawk Boy Mike Bara on Rumble, Seahawk Boy Mike B on Twitter X. And you can come in and argue with me on my Seahawk opinions if you want, or my football opinions all day long. I just do that strictly for fun and engagement. And we'll see if it grows. I mean, I am pretty smart. I never get anything wrong on football. So, sooner or later, people are going to go, this guy's never wrong. This guy nails it. So it's going to happen.
All right. So it's in the works. It's destiny.
It's destiny. It's destiny for me to be one of the biggest football Twitter X accounts on the planet.
Look, I think you like to say, other people like to say also, that Toxically Masculine Tuesday is the best round table on the internet. I think I've heard that said before.
Best round table out there, yeah.
Look, I think when you and I are talking for sports once a week, I think we get a lot of info out. We summarize this stuff fairly well. We add some nuance and backstory and interesting takes. We do what we do. I think we do it very well.
I agree with you.
Interesting podcast that everyone is not following yet, but hopefully you can do that. Find the Strictly Football Show and the Unhappy Hour. Okay, let's jump into recapping what we learned last week.
Okay. Oh, where'd you go?
Yeah, went right here. That was my intro. That was my
Oh.
pulling the chain on the neon sign of the Unhappy Hour logo. How about that little movement, some animation? All right, let's get into the scores last week, the Thursday night game of last week. Hey, don't look now, but the Broncos are getting some wins, and Sean Payton has some pedigree and a track record. Is this a smoke screen, or is this the product of Spencer Rattler not really having a lot of his weapons? There's a lot of injuries now with the New Orleans Saints, unfortunately, who dropped to 2-5. What's the takeaway from this game?
Well, look, I happen to think that Spencer Rattler played really well. Every time I looked up, he was swarmed. He would literally go through the play action, and then we'd get set up to throw, and there would already be a guy in his face. And I thought, given the circumstances of just the sieve of an offensive line, I felt like the Saints had, and Denver's really pretty good defense and decent pass rush. I thought he did really well for a rookie, making his second start. What was he? 25 of 35. That, you don't want your rookie quarterback throwing 35 times. That means you're not running the ball very well.
Tell that to Kevin Stefanski, especially when Nick Chubb comes back. For the love of God, we had 3 quarterbacks, and they're all airing it out like crazy.
But I mean, again, I wanted the Seahawks to draft Rattler in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round. They didn't bother. They didn't need him because they had Sam Howell and Geno Smith. We're going to find out how that's going to work out for them. I think Rattler has star quality written all over him. He just needs the game experience. He needs the reps. So having said that, they got crushed. The Broncos were a vastly superior team. And Sean Payton, let's face it, the passing game is not productive. Bo Nix is not really producing anything in terms of touchdown passes, but his scrambling is causing problems for the other teams, and their defense is really good. So it's about all you can say about the Broncos. I think they're kind of a mirage 4-3 at this point, and I think they'll end up bottoming out at 6 or 7 wins when it's all over.
And it is possible. That is how it plays out for sure. Saints having a tough time right now with a bunch of injuries. Rashid Shaheed and I think Olave. Yeah. They're just having all sorts of problems. But yeah, either the Broncos are going to be lucky to be around 500, or we're onto something special, or they're above 500 accidentally, and this is all going to balance out. Time will tell. Look, let's bounce to the game overseas, the London game. About time will tell. Yeah. This is a battle of some really lousy teams. Jaguars, they're the only team the Browns have beaten. Let's put that in perspective. But Jaguars double up the Patriots. Tank Bigsby. I did draft Tank Bigsby as a running back. He's kind of stepping in for Travis Etienne, really getting some stuff done on the fantasy front. He's a great player to grab if you can. So they put up 32 points and get the win against the Patriots on the road across the pond. What's the takeaway?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was a good game for the Jaguars. They finally played with a little bit of discipline. I think the same thing applies to Drake May that I just said about Spencer Rattler. I think he's got star quality. I think they were right to pick him with the 3rd pick. You just got to give him time and some weapons to develop. He had 2 touchdown passes, no interceptions. What is his rating there? 109.7. That's pretty good. That's really good. Any rookie to throw, 37 times and come away with that passer rating, that is phenomenal and good for him. But the future is not now in New England. The future is 2 or 3 years from now. They just got to keep building around him. Trevor Lawrence had a much better game, but still only 1 touchdown pass, so he's not developing the passing game. And, again, the Jaguars are just a little better than the Patriots right now. They're both not very good teams. So,
but it's just like you said earlier. A lot of people were talking about Brian Thomas. Another 89 yards receiving, another touchdown.
Yeah, look at that 18-yard average. Really, that's pretty darn good. That's Randy Moss territory there. So that's good stuff.
Exactly. So, I'm still surprised the Jaguars haven't put it together more than they have this season, but I could say the same thing about my Cleveland Browns. So regardless, it is what it is, and their record is showing us exactly who they are. No doubt about it. Let's talk about your team here, the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
Gee, this is your team. You can give us a dissertation on this, but look, the Falcons have been playing some pretty good football. And look, 34 points on the board is 34 points on the board for the offense. You held them 14. You're kind of getting it done there.
There was a defensive score in there. There was a strip sack by Derek Hall and a touchdown by Boye Mafe. They've got 2 pretty good edges. The problem is they've only got 2, and the other 2 guys they traded away Daryl Turner or Daryl Thomas, what the hell's Daryl's Taylor, who has 5 or 6 sacks now for the Bears. Stupid move. They shouldn't have done that before the season started. Uchenna Nwosu is out with an injury. He doesn't look like he'll really ever play for the Seahawks again. So everybody, all the Geno bros are all talking about, oh, Geno was so great. He had 207 yards. He did finally have 2 touchdown passes in the game.
Okay.
Time he's done that. You got to give him credit. He made some good plays in this game. He didn't make a single great play. Every so often, Geno will surprise you and make a great play. They're making a lot out of him stepping up and hitting a 40-yarder right down the middle. But DK Metcalf was so wide open. In reality, it's funny. Oh, it was a tight window. Well, the only thing that made the window tight was that Geno waited too long to throw the ball because DK was wide open at about the 10-yard line, 15-yard line, well before he threw it. He threw it late, but he got it there anyway. Touchdown Seahawks. And, they gave up again. They gave up a whole ton of they gave up just way too many rushing yards, 155 yards on the ground. And they only got that number because the Falcons in the last quarter and a half had to basically give up on the run and throw the ball on every down because they were down 2 scores plus at one point to the Seahawks. Excellent all-around game. You have to be impressed by the offensive execution. Ken Walker made plays. He caught a touchdown pass. DK.
Hey.
But here's a couple things. The run defense is still not fixed. The offensive line is still not very good, although they played better. They had a guy named Mike Jarrell, who you've never heard of, start at right tackle, small school guy, played really well, but everybody's got to remember he wasn't going up against Von Miller or Myles Garrett. He was just going up against some nondescript Falcons guy, Arnold Ebiketie or something. So that's all takeaways. DK is injured. He's probably going to miss this week's game. You're playing the Bills. You're really going to need DK Metcalf to win the game. You're going to need to do the same thing, make the Bills play from behind and try to keep them from running the ball. And then, they did make a trade this week. They traded for Ernest Jones, a linebacker for the Rams who played really well in LA. He had been traded to Tennessee for almost nothing. And like a sixth and a seventh for a fifth and Baker, or not Jerome Baker, but Ernest Jones. But the Seahawks also sent Jerome Baker in the deal. So they traded away one of their starting linebackers and a 4th-round pick, which is really high, for another starting linebacker. This is 2 trades they've made now in 2 weeks. So they traded for a guy from Richardson from the Jaguars. He did shore up the defensive line a little bit. And so they're clearly trying to address the run defense. So these are interesting developments for the Seahawks. I had them losing this game and they won it. But I do think that they're, trying to make moves, but these moves I think are just going to keep them on the fringe of the playoffs. It's not going to get them over the top. I don't think a 4th-round pick is an awfully high pick to trade away for a guy that's a 10-game rental and then he's going to be a free agent. So we'll see. But promising performance by my Hawks. They looked a lot better than they have.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, start talking about defensive players. Bruce Irvin, what was his story? He was very talented, but he couldn't keep his head on straight. I remember him going there. Am I remembering this right? Are you familiar with this guy?
Yeah, Bruce Irvin was drafted as an edge rusher, and in fact, he ended up being the strong side linebacker. And it's funny because he was a decent pass rusher, but not great. He was a 6-sack-a-year guy. They thought when they drafted him, they were getting the best pass rusher in the draft. They actually passed. They passed on, who's the guy that went to New England and is going to the Hall of Fame? I don't know. I have to go back to the 2012 draft. The guy with the drug problems. Let me go look. All
right, Mike, go ahead and look while I pull up the next game here. I always like to toss random trivia at people for no apparent
reason. Bruce Irvin was a flake. I mean, he was a flake. He bought a new car every month. Somebody told me once. There was a guy I bought a car from a dealership, and he said, "Yeah, Bruce Irvin comes in here every month and buys." It was not. They passed up on Fletcher Cox, who they could have taken. Chandler Jones is the guy I was thinking. Sorry, Chandler Jones, who is a Hall of Fame pass rusher. So, but I'll tell you what. Once they stuck him at strong side linebacker, nobody executed a screen against the Seahawks for the next 5 years while Bruce Irvin was out there. He killed every dump off and every screen out on his side. He was amazing in that from that perspective. So
yeah, it's just it's weird sometimes the things we remember, Mike, and the things that we don't. I had the thought that throughout this past week, several different moments, like I remember eating dinner in this one location. I had a very bland, random, uneventful conversation with somebody, but like it became very vivid to me and I replayed it. And then it's like there's things I should remember. And I go, did that happen? I don't really remember that happening. The memory is a strange thing, but Bruce Irvin was always like, that guy's got talent. I wonder if he can put it together. And I just remember always catching the updates on his story.
yeah,
For no apparent reason.
You know, if you want him, if you want a guy that, if you want a really great strong side linebacker, he was your guy. But as a pass rusher, he was not as advertised.
Gotcha. Well, let's talk about Amari Cooper. As advertised, he's been a number one receiver in multiple places, but eventually he wears out his welcome and he's traded for peanuts. It is the Amari Cooper story, and it might not be done yet, but he scores a touchdown in his debut with the Buffalo Football Bills, defeating the hapless Tennessee Titans, who dropped to 1-5 on the season, only able to put up 10 points in this game. Are the Bills this good? Or are the Titans this bad?
Titans are bad, and they're having a fire sale. They traded away, they traded away the linebacker to the Seahawks right after the game. They're kind of having a fire sale there. So, Ernest Jones was one of their better players. They also traded, of course, DeAndre Hopkins is going to go to the Chiefs. So it's fire sale time for them. They are not, as expected, 1-5. They're going to be one of the top 10 teams picking this year, it looks like. So having said that, the Bills are starting to look really good. And Josh Allen, I hear people keep saying Lamar is the MVP. No, he's not. Josh Allen is the MVP. Josh Allen looks fantastic, and I'm definitely behind him for MVP. He may not have a lot of the shiny stats this year, but he's making every play he needs to make when he needs to make it. Great game by the Bills. Great performer. Great quarterback.
And look, adding Amari Cooper to your team, a motivated Amari Cooper. This was a scorned ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend that wasn't showing up. Their head was in other places. They're making mental mistakes, or it was out of, I'll cut off my nose to spite my own face kind of stuff. I'll show them by not catching passes. I don't know what it was, but I think the Browns actually are better, addition by subtraction on that. Well, with Cedric Tillman stepping into the number one spot, getting a lot of action last week. But it's going to help that he has someone like Amari Cooper on his team, as long as it's motivated.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, look at the average. Four catches, 16.5-yard average. He's going deep, and Josh Allen's got the arm to get him the ball, and that's really what matters.
Well, let me ask you about going deep and the ability to get him the ball. DeAndre Hopkins, you did just mention, from the Titans, has been shipped over to the Kansas City Football Chiefs. I'll try not to do that with every team, but it's kind of funny to me. The New York Football Giants. Anyway, what are they getting out of DeAndre Hopkins at this stage of his career?
I don't think much, but it's a psychological boost, and he's a veteran and a professional. He'll show up. He'll be on time. He'll work well with Mahomes. They will get the most out of him that he has left. Now trade for Tyler Lockett, Kansas City, and take him off our hands. So, yeah.
All right. You're done with Tyler Lockett?
Well, the Seahawks can't actually trade anybody because their salary cap is so screwed up that anybody that's tradable on their roster, literally, if you trade them, it'll put you $8 million over the salary cap. So we're better next year when we start cutting guys, but this season, just forget it. We're not trading anybody away, and that's what we should be doing. But hey, Mike's not the owner of the Seahawks. Therefore,
not yet. Well, far be it from me to talk about anyone being in salary cap hell. Here's Deshaun Watson getting carted off the field. He blows out his Achilles tendon. The Browns lose this game by 7. A lot of our games are close. There is still talent on this team. We are still a team that went to the playoffs last year, but it feels like an eternity ago that we were under Joe Flacco going to the playoffs. So we lose 21-14 to the Bengals, who advanced. They improved to 3-4. And Browns fall to the league worst, matching 1-6, 0-3 at home. And Deshaun Watson's done. This is a season-ending injury. It might take longer than a season, and it's one of those. This is the Aaron Rodgers type injury of the Achilles, and it's just kind of wondering, is the Deshaun Watson era in Cleveland over? Because when he was healthy, he wasn't playing what he gave us some of the worst performances we've ever seen at this position from a real non-backup quarterback that we've ever seen. What are you seeing as a non-Browns fan from the outside, watching this game, watching the injury, watching Dorian Thompson-Robinson come in instead of Jameis, and then Jameis comes in after? Now, Jameis is going to be the starting quarterback for the Browns this week against the Ravens.
Yeah.
And Ken Dorsey has now been given control to make the calls over Kevin Stefanski at head coach. So there's a lot on the outside that I'm looking at as a Browns fan. Like, what's resonating to you about this crazy storyline in Cleveland?
Yeah, the Deshaun Watson era is over. He probably sits out the next year and rehabs, and probably then works out a separation, a new contract or something to free himself up the year after that once he gets healthy, if he even wants to come back. He's got so much money, he never needs to play again. Unless he enjoys the limelight. He's still got some physical tools, but the injuries just keep piling up for him now. I saw that as soon as you see that jiggling on the calf, you know the Achilles has ripped, and I just saw it in slow motion. I'm like, oh God, no!
It's because Kevin Durant, the Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you don't wish injuries on people. Now, Deshaun has become a Bill Cosby type sexual predator, P. Diddy, Epstein type accusations. He's never been found guilty in a court of law of anything. I remind people of Jussie Smollett, the Covington kid, Justice Kavanaugh, Bubba Wallace. I mean, we could talk about all the Trump accusations. Trevor Bauer. I don't believe any accusation. Let's wait till it goes through a court, and everybody has a right to some defense.
Even if it goes through a kangaroo court like Trump went through, it's a joke conviction anyway. Democrats charge him, Democrats judge him, and Democrats convict him. Give me a break. So, we all know that's bullshit. So Deshaun sounds like, last time I checked, asking for a handy was not a crime. Okay. Last time I checked, but it just, the fall of Deshaun Watson is just terrible to behold. It's just a sad thing because he had such talent and he was so good in some games. I saw, like I said, I remember a couple years ago, 2018, 2019, he dueled with Russell Wilson out here, and it was phenomenal seeing the two of those guys throw the ball all over the field and just make amazing play after amazing play. That's back when he had DeAndre Hopkins, and, great game. And it's just now you guys have to decide what you're going to do. I think it's a slap in the face they didn't put Jameis in. I mean, Jameis Winston was the number 1 overall pick in the draft. You don't go to him immediately. That's a bad coaching decision, in my opinion. And I think what you got to do is just let him sit out, try to negotiate some sort of settlement with him to try to squeeze, free up your cap a little bit, and go draft a new quarterback. That's what you got to do and start over again. So it's sad to say, but I think not only is this season over for the Browns, I think you got to kind of go back to the studs, kind of take it down to the studs. And if I was you, I know you don't want to do this, I would say this season's a wash. Let's get what we can out of Myles Garrett and go from there. I'm sorry, but that's what I would do. If I was the owner, I'd say, well, we love Myles, but by the time we get our offense put back together with a new quarterback, Myles is going to be well over 30, and may as well somebody might give you 2 first-round picks for this guy. Two.
If we spent 3 for Watson,
you might get 2.
At least 3.
Well,
that's a generation.
I hear you, but you're not going to get that in season. But you look at the Lions. How close are the Lions to winning the Super Bowl? I guarantee you they're on the phone with you guys about Myles Garrett, and they're on the phone with the Raiders about Max Crosby. And I'm driving a pretty hard bargain because I know the Lions really need to bring in a premier elite pass rusher. So as far as the game goes, the Bengals are just a little bit better. They got Joe Burrow. He had a serviceable game. He had the 2 touchdown passes. It's like, wow, it's actually painful to see the Browns situation because you fans deserve better. I'll tell you what, going to you guys have never been to the Super Bowl and ever. And it's fun. It's fun when your team is in the Super Bowl. We've been to 3 of them and it's fun, and you deserve that opportunity. So,
it's even more fun if you win, I've heard.
It's a lot more fun if you win. Trust
me. Yeah, the going is the hardest part, especially if you lose. I say, because I was on a game show once, and I tell this story. I'm like, do you think I'd be telling you this story if I didn't win? I probably would never tell the game show story if I lost.
Yeah. I was on a game show. I was on the dating game. And Sydney Sweeney picked me second. She put me second place and picked the other guy right next to me.
Almost. Want to say hello to Joe Meyer, Thomas Hinkle, Ron King, William Kaplan, and all the people watching as we're streaming through Facebook. I have devices playing the screen because it will not accept.
That would literally be the worst thing. Be the first runner-up in the dating game with Sydney Sweeney. God damn it.
I got a friend who his family hit on the lottery.
Yeah.
And they won some money, but they were one number off from the grand prize.
Ah.
So they missed one number, and that one number that they missed was one number off from being multimillionaires versus, here's $10,000. It was a pretty big deal.
That's nothing. I had a $400 million lottery in Seattle a couple years ago, and I went through this whole thing of, they say vocalize it, pray it in, and I came up with this whole complex prayer, right? And I kept modifying it and making it better, and and putting in Jesus' name, amen, at the end. And one day I had this feeling, and I would go, and it was this one machine. There were two machines there, and this one guy told me, this machine's lucky. I won 250 grand on it. So I'd always play that machine. And then on a Wednesday, I go in, and there's all these TV cameras. The winning ticket was in Auburn, Washington. It was my machine, and I didn't get it. It wasn't me. So thanks a lot, Jesus. Appreciate that. You gave the 400 million to somebody else. So I think I actually came closer than they did. But
wow, you're getting okay. So all right, you either take that as nothing I do is ever good enough, I can't, or you're like, man, I'm close to a breakthrough. A little bit more meditation, a little bit more.
I took it as fuck you, Mike. That's how I took it. Fuck you, Mike. Fuck you, Mike.
As don't ask me for any more stuff again. Get out of my face. Get out of my prayers, good sir. All right. The Houston Texans, the team that will forever be linked with the Cleveland Browns and potentially the worst trade in NFL history for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Look, their prayers were not answered as the Green Bay Packers were able to pull this one out in the last moments here.
Yeah.
Green Bay 5-2, Houston Texans 5-2, but CJ's not looking great. What are some of your main thoughts on this game?
I thought CJ was fine. I just think the Packers, good team at home, played them really hard. The Packers are so well coached. This guy gets, what's his name?
Jordan
coach.
Love?
No, not Jordan Love, but the coach, Matt LaFleur, gets the most out of Jordan Love and gets the most out of his players in his running game. And I just really thought, it was just a tough game on the road. And the Packers were just that home team. They had that little bit of an advantage and came out of it. Those are two really good football teams. They deserve to be 5-2.
Yeah. Joe Mixon, 2 touchdowns on 115 yards rushing, 25 carries. Keep your eyes peeled on him or trading for him in your fantasy league. What else? Who else here? Yeah, Tank Dell. What the heck is Tank Dell used to be last season? He was great. I drafted him. I was very happy. He was performing.
He's been injured. He's been injured and he's coming off the injury. And you don't realize how an injury can change a player's capabilities. Even a small one, But it's good. It's a good game. Good game for the Packers at home.
Father Time being undefeated, of course.
Right.
Hey, quick thoughts. I know it's strictly football, but talking about Father Time and injuries and really quick, something that happened this week in the world of sports. Pretty interesting. First time it's ever happened. I don't think, any thoughts on LeBron James playing with LeBron James Jr. in the same game? It's never happened before. I know we can say LeBron's douchey personally and politically, and maybe his kid doesn't deserve it. He didn't play enough. He didn't. Okay. But I personally think it's kind of cool. They lived long enough. Bronny could have collapsed and died on that court last year. So it's like, he might not be ready. Get him in the same game, get him a couple shots, maybe even a point or two, then send him to the G League. And it's like, it'll be a great storyline. Maybe he comes up later.
It was kind of a stunt because Bronny really doesn't belong there. And I don't watch the NBA much anymore. It's kind of like, when the Seahawks drafted Shaquille Griffin, and then the next year or the year after, they drafted his brother Shaquem Griffin in the 5th round, who was a linebacker with only one hand. He didn't have a left hand. And it's like, guess what? He can't tackle. You know why? Because he's only got one hand. Okay. But it was a stunt like that. It was a feel-good story stunt. And okay, great. That's about all I feel about it. So what?
That's fine. Well, we'll tell that on the unhappy hour. We'll do more of that. But I just found it interesting because Father Time, the comments about injuries changing a person. I mean, just the absolute luck. What are we, year 20? What are we on, year 23 of LeBron James? I mean, Players don't play this long. You don't get a chance to
but
do
it shows you, Brian, how much easier the game is than it was in the 80s and 90s. It's a much easier game. It's much less physical. You can't play defense. You can't really touch anybody. So all you do now is shuffle up and down the court the way Kareem used to, and you can play 23 years. Kareem played 20 years, didn't he? But he was he was rubbery. He was he just didn't get hurt. He was a rubbery kind of guy. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I told you, I walked behind. I was working at William Morris, the talent agency out in Beverly Hills. And on our second floor, we had our athletes, our crossover division.
Yeah.
So it was like music stars and athletes. So yeah, I mean, I walked past Jerry Rice and I walked behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar down. He had to duck and lurch through that little hallway entrance. It reminds you of some ancient alien stuff. It's like you look at a 7-foot something guy or 6'11", whatever Kareem is. They don't look human. They look
7'2". Yeah, like 7'2". What got me is how TV adds a lot of weight to these guys. It was amazing. Guys like Tom Chambers and Karl Malone are much skinnier than you think, and their legs, they look like little sticks. So these guys are not nearly as muscular as they look on TV. They're pretty They're pretty scrawny.
All right. Well, let's talk about scrawny. Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins quarterback situation. It looks like Tua's coming back this week. I think that's huge because, my gosh, I drafted Tyreek Hill in the first round of my fantasy league, and it is killing me because he's putting up next to nothing for numbers. But look, the Colts, end of the day, they went with Anthony Richardson replacing Joe Flacco, and they get the win, 16-10. Dolphins dropped to 2-4. Takeaways from this game.
Well, the Colts aren't very good, but they're better with Richardson, and you got to keep including his development. I mean, again, or pushing his development. I don't really think he's particularly good. I don't think he's going to be good. Intelligence is a huge thing in football. I don't think he's that bright, especially at the quarterback position. But a lot of dumb guys like Lamar have done really well. So it's a question of how do we tailor our offense to make him more effective? Because it's for all of his physical talents, he's just not that effective.
I mean, they had him rushing the ball 14 times. I mean, I know rushing numbers are weird with quarterbacks.
He's not going to stay healthy if you keep doing that because he's already shown he gets banged up. So, I think I've wanted the Seahawks to go trade up and draft a quarterback forever. They almost did it. If they did, they were going to go get Anthony Richardson. Thank God, because they would have taken Richardson at number 1 over Stroud. He's a good player. He still has some potential, but and again, the Dolphins are just a shell of a team without Tua. They're just Tua. You think Tua doesn't have value? Look at the Dolphins' performances the last 3 or 4 weeks without Tua. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team taking 50 points on people last year. This was like greatest show on turf category. Mike, their coach is a genius. He's an offensive guru, and then all of a sudden, wah wah. So we'll see if they're able to bounce back with Tua. Obviously, all of the concussion concerns, we'll be keeping an eye on him. It almost feels like a slow motion car crash. You can't look away. He just keeps playing, and it doesn't look good when he gets hurt. And I don't. Injuries are the worst part of the game. I hope everyone stays healthy. It'll never happen, but Tua set to come back is kind of the story. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, but
they're talking about it, but it hasn't happened yet. But it's one of those things, kind of like Russell Wilson. We'll get onto that. Everybody knew he was going to start, but nobody really officially said anything. So,
all right, well, let's talk about Russell Wilson. They hang 37 points on the New York Football Jets, and they have the inverse of the order: Pittsburgh 5-2, New York 2-5.
Yeah,
you got to say that Aaron Rodgers is out of excuses, only hanging 15 points here. And Russell Wilson, look, you got a pretty decent performance out of him, huh?
Well, that's the thing. That was a tough game for me because I root for both Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, and I'm rooting for the Jets to do well. But, they seem like a mess kind of right now, the Jets. Can't believe I'm saying this, but I don't think firing Saleh was a really good move at this point in the season. It didn't seem to do anything. I don't think he's a very good coach, but I personally would not have kept him this year to start with. But I certainly would wait till the end of the season to fire him. I think in retrospect, it doesn't look like it's that good. Russell Wilson, look, new team, new coaches, new players, very effective. Counted for 3 touchdowns like he always does. Russ throws for touchdowns and he scores touchdowns with his feet. 21 of those 37 points came from Russell Wilson all by himself. He had 265 yards passing, high percentage, no interceptions. Look, Russell Wilson is an elite Hall of Fame quarterback. He's been injured off and on. He seems pretty healthy right now. And if he gets and stays healthy, he's going to make the Steelers effective in the passing game. And with that defense, they have a chance to go somewhere in the AFC, because in a big game, you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Russell Wilson is not going to let you down in that game. And he shut everybody who hates him the fuck up on Sunday night. He really did. Good for you, Russ. I had Hooters wings and loved every minute of it. Way to go, buddy.
Yeah, he's one of those players that the injuries, a lot of people asked, has he lost a step? Can he ever be the player that he was? Is it going to be, just once again, Father Time being undefeated? I also want to ask you about this.
Well, the ball placement, look, people were trying to say, oh, that's a great catch by George Pickens. Yeah, you forget to mention the ball hit him in the freaking hands 45 yards down the field. Russell Wilson's ball placement and accuracy is next to none. Nobody is better than him at that. There might be guys as good. Nobody's better. So, look, Father Time has slowed Russell down in his feet, but his arm is still his arm. And he looks great out there. So let's
let's talk about looking great out there. President Trump was on hand for this to happen.
Wow. There she goes.
Ketchup Stadium. Running with the Trump sign. Pennsylvania matters. They say whoever
if I was a security guy here, I would have gone for the
tackles.
I would have gone for the boobs. You got a perfect excuse, dude. Just tackle her. Just tackle her.
There was a gentle wrap up. Very different from how you see the linebacker style tackles of a random dude who's had a few too many Bud Lights.
Looks like what Roger Goodell would like the NFL to be. Ooh, let's just gently wrap up and not hit anybody.
Yeah, it's all sliding football. But any thoughts on that? Because Pennsylvania is, some people say, I think it's going to be a massive landslide. Trump's going to win easily. It's not going to be close. He's going to pull out extra surprise states. Yeah. It's not going to be contested. But some people say if it's close, air quote close, Pennsylvania will determine the winner. Any thoughts on President Trump going to this game? Any thoughts on this girl and the publicity this brought?
All I said was what I said on Tuesday night's Toxically Masculine Tuesday show. Politicians always get booed at sporting events. Always. Except Donald Trump. Huh. Donald Trump is the only politician I have ever seen that gets cheered at sporting events. Okay? If that doesn't tell you what's really happening, what's really going on in this country and how people really feel and who really won the 2020 election, I don't know what does, because the guy gets cheered everywhere he goes. Sometimes there's a few boos. 2020, there were a few boos, but they were drowned out by the cheers. But now it's 90% cheers. You can't even hear the boos if there's anybody booing. So
speaking about people booing and getting attention real quick, additionally, it was rumored earlier this week that both candidates were going to get on the Joe Rogan Experience, and now I'm hearing that it's only going to be Trump. Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
No, I don't want to get too political in this thing, but I will say, Kamala Harris is not going on Joe Rogan. She'd have as much of a chance of going on with me. I mean, I would slaughter her and make her look the fool. She's not going to do that. So, she can't even handle a scripted question town hall where people are literally just actors reading their cards that they were given. And even then she doesn't have a good answer. So
we covered that ad nauseum. Blake Wally and I did on the Agree to Disagree show earlier. Find that online, subscribe to the podcast, of course. But yeah, it's interesting. Trump is really beloved in Pennsylvania. And remember, Trump called out Joe Rogan and really made an issue out of it. And, he just kind of didn't understand why he wasn't getting invited on. They're both UFC guys. You see Trump walk into the UFC sporting events. Yeah. Everybody's going bonkers, walks in with Tucker and Kid Rock and Dana White, the head of the UFC. And You know, he's been very critical of Joe Rogan.
That's why I think Rogan. That's why I think Rogan should be. I mean, or not Trump. Trump should be very careful of Rogan. I
agree.
don't think Rogan's going to entrap him because Trump's smarter than him. But I don't know what. If you have a guy that as recently as 6 months ago was on the fence about whether he liked Trump or not, you're a stupid shit. Okay, Joe, you're stupid. And you're even stupider for having Billy Carson on your show, who's a total con man. But, you know, you want to talk about aliens sometime, Joe? I'll blow away all of your alien guests.
Right, we got to make this happen. We got to break the internet.
You want to talk, but it's like I got serious doubts about a guy who's not smart enough to recognize the direction the country is headed and where it needs to go.
So. He recognizes it, but it must be something about that Spotify money. Something about that Spotify contract, something about his handlers. Because look, his hero, Tulsi Gabbard, who's been on his show, she's Team MAGA. She left and joined the Republican Party this week. Yeah. RFK Jr., who he loves RFK Jr. Yeah. He's Team MAGA and left the Democrats.
Well, Come on. RFK Jr. is a guy who by the way, I met in an airport once in 1999 in Detroit. Is a guy that for the things that Trump is putting him in charge of, he's a great guy to have. On a lot of other policy issues, he's a nutbag. So, you know, he's a guy that I could support with constraints, right? There's certain things RFK Jr. would fix, but other things, man, we don't want him anywhere.
Absolutely. Felix the Cat rooting for his Broncos. We already talked about the Broncos, so go back and find that. Right now, we're going to talk about this. Let's talk about other animals. The Lions took down Blake Wally's Minnesota Vikings. Yeah. These are two 5-1 teams. So the last matchup, what was that? Packers and Texans, that one rather, and then Vikings Lions. We're two 5-2 teams. These are two 5-1 teams. Look, this was settled by 2 points, very close. These are turning out to be very good teams.
Yeah, they are good teams. They're both very well balanced. It was a thriller. I think in the end, Jared Goff is just a little bit better than Sam Darnold, and he got that last drive, and that's what made the difference. So, absolutely. It's just a good game between two really good teams. That's all I can say about it. You know.
Yep. Jahmyr Gibbs getting 2 touchdowns on the day, eclipsing 116 yards there.
Let me bring up this one. What do you think about the rumor Mike Florio over at Pro Football Talk is really trying to start this? What do you think about the rumor about the Rams maybe thinking of trading Matthew Stafford to the Vikings? What do you think that would do to the Vikings Super Bowl chances?
Oh, good grief. Is that really a thing?
Yeah, it's really being discussed. Cooper Kupp is on the trading block, and people are talking, well, maybe the Vikings or the Chiefs can go get him, but what about Matthew Stafford being on the trading block? One last shot of the Super Bowl with a team that's 5-1.
Hey, I'm here for it. I think you mentioned this on the last show. I wish there were more trades. I don't want it to be, a feeding frenzy of everybody jumping ship and super teams I don't know how you can even handle that, but really either you're trying to win it or you're not. And either you're regrouping because of injuries or weirdness, or you got to make some changes. I would like to, if something happens with Stafford, because let's face it, Stafford's age is up there. He's had some head injury issues. And Cooper Kupp is often injured. If you send one of them, you should send both of them.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm encouraging that, if I'm rooting for that, but if one goes, I hope that both of them go.
I always like to root for the teams that have never really won the Super Bowl, except the Cardinals. They can rot in hell forever. But the Vikings, it would be fun to see them win one. Having lived in Minnesota for 7 years of my life.
Hey, I would root for the Vikings against any team that's won a Super Bowl already. I would root for the Lions against any team that's won a Super Bowl already. I drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown, luckily, in my league, and he's doing very well. And Justin Jefferson.
If the Lions or the Vikings or the Browns or the Bills get to a Super Bowl, the whole country is going to be behind them. There's no way around that. Trying to get them that first win.
Yeah, that's kind of like how it was for the American League Championship Series. Everybody was rooting for the Cleveland Tribe, but unfortunately, the damned Yankees were able to take it. I saw the maps of where people are rooting for. It really is just New York, and then everybody else is rooting.
Everybody else hates New York.
Yeah, everybody hates them. All right, let's talk about New York. Everybody hates the New York Football Giants. They dropped to 2-5 on the season, only putting up 3 points on the board. And Saquon Barkley gets the last laugh. He bails on the team that drafted him. And the 4-2 Eagles hang 28 points on the Giants, improving to 4-2 on the season. Barkley with 176 and a touchdown. Man, how important do you think that was to him, his psyche, his energy? That's got to feel great going back to where you were and crushing it.
Gee, do you think Saquon was a little bit motivated? I mean, just a little. 176 freaking yards. He was fantastic. Showed how much he's still got in the tank, that he's an exceptional running back. You know, people talk about Ken Walker on the Seahawks, and I love Ken Walker. And if you don't know who he is, he's a really talented running back. But you compare him to somebody like Saquon, and he is not in the same ballpark. Saquon is fantastic. Jalen Hurts had a good game. And the Vikings, again, they go back, or not the Vikings, the Giants, they go back and forth. They were fabulous against the Seahawks. Granted, they had 10 days to prepare, but then they're ass, and then they win, and then they're ass again. So what is up with the Giants? They have zero consistency. And I think a lot of that has to go to their quarterback. I don't remember what Daniel Jones threw for in that game, but it wasn't much.
99 yards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 99 yards kind of says it all, and 23 on the ground.
Some receivers for that guy. Did
Malik
Neighbors play? Yeah, he got 4. Yeah. He got 8 targets. So you know,
he's back, but not quite gelling again. And we've seen Devin Singletary have some great games, rushing the ball for the Giants. We've seen Tyrone Tracy rushing the ball really well for them, but. Yeah, I mean, they did enough to get the win against the Browns, but definitely not enough to beat the Eagles on this day. So, yeah, I mean, they're sitting at 2-5. They're sitting in that top 10, top 15 potential draft pick category, because you really are jockeying at this point for what the rest of your season is going to look like and what the next 2 years of your franchise.
The Shadur Sanders sweepstakes, or who's the receiver there with Colorado? The guy who plays corner and running back or receiver. That guy, I think he'll be the number 1 pick. But wow,
you think Travis Hunter?
Travis Hunter, he's fantastic.
Well, these are 2 other teams right here, the Raiders and the Rams, both with 2 wins on the season. They might be drafting him next year. Rams get 4 takeaways. I don't like calling them turnovers. I think there really is a big difference between a takeaway and a turnover.
Yep. I would agree.
You know, you punch the ball out, or you like, there are ways you get the ball and there's ways they just do something dumb. But anyway, 4 turnovers there. Rams get the win. Aiden O'Connell is injured, but I mean, he's not a long-term answer there.
No.
All right, 2-win teams. Obviously, you brought up the potential trade for Stafford.
Right.
Maybe something with Cooper Kupp. What else here? You also mentioned the trade on defense with Max Crosby.
Yeah, possibly going.
So what are we talking about with the Raiders and the Rams here?
I mean, again, 2 teams that are probably in the fire sale business. The Raiders made a big mistake not taking a quarterback this year. They should have taken one that, and built around that player, because Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell were never going to be it. They said, "Oh, we think Aiden O'Connell's good enough." Well, you found out he's not. So now you're back looking for a quarterback again this year. And not a team that plays well or plays consistently, just not a very good team. So I think you got to say that both teams are in rebuild mode. They're definitely in rebuilding mode. They should probably be acquiring draft picks and going out and getting their replacement quarterbacks. And, that's all you can say about the game. And the Rams were a little bit better. Brian Billick, who coached the Ravens to the 2000 Super Bowl, used to talk about something he called toxic differential, which is not just turnovers and takeaways, but explosive plays in the running game and explosive plays in the passing game. How many do you give up versus how many do you get? And the teams with the top toxic differential win the game 90% of the time. And that was a game where, again, the Rams totally won that side of the ball in terms of the explosive plays and the turnovers. So interesting game from that perspective.
Well, we talk about toxic plays. Let's include the injury of Jaden Daniels, quarterback of the Washington Commanders. That's a toxic play. That hurts them a lot. He was only in for 2 passing attempts. Then he injures his ribs. Marcus Mariota comes off the bench, 18 of 23 for 205. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Looking like the Oregon Duck, Marcus Mariota. They, of course, get the win over the hapless 1-win Panthers. But look, Washington's 5-2, and whether Mariota's back there or Daniels is back there, they're putting together some interesting stuff with Terry McLaurin looking good, Zach Ertz with a bit of a renaissance, and Brian Robinson Jr. doing okay as well. So what are we taking away here? How concerned are you with this injury?
Oh,
How
not.
impressed are you with Mariota?
Yeah, I mean, ribs are tough, but thank God it happened against the Carolina Panthers. But he'll be back in a few weeks, and then he'll be better than ever. It's painful, but Marcus Mariota is one of the better backup quarterbacks in this league, so I think they'll be just fine. They might lose this week, but they'll play well. Thank God they were playing the Carolina Panthers, and now with Andy Dalton injured, now Bryce Young is going to have to come back for the Panthers. So we will see what happens there. Again, it's a death watch. The Carolina Panthers are in hospice, basically. They're in NFL hospice. Who's going to get the number 1 overall pick? Are they going to get it or not?
Or the Cleveland Browns. Yeah.
Browns.
It reminds you that Jimmy Carter got to vote today for Kamala Harris picture. You saw that one.
Yeah.
Did you see that picture of Jimmy Carter voting? Yeah, that's a hospice that has been going for many years. I don't wish any.
Wouldn't surprise me if he's already dead. Be honest with you.
He hasn't looked alive for multiple years to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, speaking of what doesn't look alive for many years, people said that about the running back over at Kansas City now, who's been filling in, Kareem Hunt. They're like, he's washed. He's too slow. He lost a step. And then we had injuries last year to Nick Chubb, and we brought him back. He did fairly well for us, but definitely not good enough to hold on to, just like Joe Flacco for some reason. Yeah. But look, Kareem Hunt, 78 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns for the team that drafted him, the Kansas City Chiefs. They did enough. They beat the San Francisco 49ers, the 3-4 San Francisco 49ers by 10 points in their house. What's the takeaway here?
They beat the team that they played in the Super Bowl last year, but they didn't beat the team that they played in the Super Bowl last year because this 49ers team is devastated with injuries. Now, I guess, who is it? Ayuk or got injured. One of the other receivers, Debo, is in the hospital with pneumonia. That's going to be a 3 or 4 week thing. I mean, I've had walking pneumonia when I was 12 years old, and he's going to be sucking it up for a month. So, they're experiencing the Super Bowl hangover of the losers. The guys that lose the Super Bowl have a hangover. They usually don't make the playoffs next year. And I think that's why the Seahawks went out and made a trade, because they jumped back into first place on the basis of their win over Atlanta, and the 49ers lost to the Chiefs, the world champions. So I think it's possible. And I got a ticket here, going to be worth $750 when the Seahawks win the division, right there from Boyd Sports, ended up here at Southern Casino. So, I think the story here is the 49ers injuries, and Brock Purdy was terrible. As magnificent as he was against the Seahawks, he was that terrible. So
3 interceptions.
Little up and down with Brock, but I really like him. I'd love to have him for my Seahawks as a quarterback. So I think he bounces back. But the 49ers are in some trouble. And if the Seahawks could manage to beat the Bills somehow, they might be able to put a couple games between them and the 49ers at the halfway mark, and that would be a big deal towards winning the division. Really would.
Yeah, you're right about all of the injuries over here. Debo, and they're saying that Ricky
Pearsall is their healthiest wide receiver, and he got shot a month ago.
Exactly.
He got shot. He's the healthiest player, shot in the chest.
Their healthiest receiver was just shot in the chest.
It's also an interesting story. What do you think about Mahomes? Mahomes does not look like Mahomes. And 44.4 quarterback rating. Ugh.
I got thoughts on Mahomes. I think he's been very overrated his entire career.
I agree with that.
I think he's had players like Tyreek Hill bail him out quite a bit. I think the league took a glam to the team and has kind of helped them along a little bit. You bring up the stat that nobody has had more interceptions overturned on penalty flags than Patrick Mahomes. A lot of these games are settled by 8 points or less, and one play here, one play there turns you from a losing.
One thing you didn't mention is Andy Reid is the best coach in the NFL at play design, at scheming guys open. Patrick Mahomes beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl with 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns. They were both dump-off screen passes to guys that were 20 yards open because of Andy Reid's incredible schemes. and walked into the end zone. And I'm going to be blunt. I could have thrown both those balls. You could have thrown both those balls. So I agree with you that the other factor in Mahomes' so-called greatness is Andy Reid. And I really look forward to, I wonder, would Patrick Mahomes be Patrick Mahomes if Pete Carroll had been his coach and his receivers were Jermaine Kearse, Doug Baldwin, and Golden Tate? I
Hey,
don't
Doug Baldwin
think so.
was doing good for me in my fantasy league that one year. He did
okay.
He was very good. But then he just like retired out of nowhere. He's like, thank you.
Left $10 million on the table. It's like, dude, I would at least come to training camp and made him cut me because then you still get paid. But oh well.
Yeah, I know. But oh well. Okay, two more games here, and then we're going to get into Mike's strategies from his betting tips there in Las Vegas. Then we will make our picks. Cardinals, Chargers, 3-win teams, 3-win team. Cardinals edge this one out barely. Kyler Murray gets a touchdown run, and they beat the Chargers. The Cardinals do. What's our takeaway?
Well, the difference here is Kyler Murray is just a little bit more effective than Justin Herbert was in getting points on the board. The Chargers continue to struggle offensively. Remember when Jim Harbaugh drafted the offensive tackle? I forget who it was. The guy from Notre Dame, I think, they drafted this year when he could have drafted Malik Neighbors. And he said, well, sometimes an offensive lineman is a weapon too. Well, no, he's not, Jim, because you know what? They don't score touchdowns. And Justin Herbert needs some guys that score touchdowns. So, if you put Justin Herbert on the Seahawks with the receivers, the receivers the Seahawks have, Tyler and DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith-Njigba and even George Fant, these guys are all, Joe Alt, thank you. These guys are all big run after the catch guys. And Geno just basically does 8-yard dump offs, and then they turn them into 15, 20, 30-yard gains. That's why Geno's amongst the top guys in yardage. If Justin Herbert was throwing the ball to those receivers, the Seahawks would be probably one of the top scoring teams in the league. So, he's just, you've got to give your quarterback the tools to get the job done. And you don't take the offensive lineman over the elite wide receiver. I don't think you do. And I think that's a big mistake.
I'll just say, as a Cleveland Browns fan, I mean, if you can get Joe Thomas right and they can anchor your left tackle position for 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. You're like,
but I don't think John Alt is Joe Thomas. Do you?
Well, nobody. I think Joe Thomas is actually a pretty unique breed. He's the Cal Ripken. He has the Iron Man record. Good luck beating that in today's soft NFL. But I don't know. I kind of come from the camp that you have to get that offensive line right, because it doesn't matter who's running 10 yards downfield if you're getting hit as soon as you get the ball. You're talking about Spencer Rattler. As soon as he gets the
that's why you need a quarterback who can step to the side and still get rid of the ball down to the open guy.
Well, look, Justin Herbert still put up 349 yards, no touchdowns though.
But he couldn't get it in the end zone because he doesn't have anybody that can score touchdowns. So, Yeah.
Well, so we'll see what happens.
I mean, to me, it was a team, two really flawed teams, but it was a game. It was one of those games. It was a game.
Yes.
All I can say.
This was another game that was one of those games. This is the final one from last week. The Ravens were able to take down the Buccaneers. Of course, Baker drafted as the number 1 pick in his draft. And the last pick in the first round, they picked Lamar Jackson, did the Ravens. And they met again, and Lamar gets the better of him with 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And Ravens are on a roll here, beating the Bucks. What'd you learn?
Baker was pushing. He was pushing. And he tried to do certain things he's not quite athletic enough to do. And he's a very good player when he plays within himself, within his parameters. He tried to go outside. He forced balls that ended up being intercepted, especially the really, really bad one at the end of the first half. He forced the ball. I was watching Peyton and Eli on ESPN. And they, when they're on with Bill Belichick, I learned more about football in that 30-minute first half than I learned all the rest of the week listening to those 3 guys talk. And, Baker was back there and Peyton, time was running out, 6-8 seconds left in the half. And Peyton Manning was going, just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Take the field goal. Just get rid of it. And Baker tried to force it for a touchdown, picked off, huge momentum change. There was an earlier interception, which was a huge momentum change. I got to put this pretty much on Baker for letting that game get out of hand, because he turned the ball over when he tried to force things, and he should not have forced it. So I honestly think the Ravens obviously are really good, but winning 5 weeks in a row in the NFL, which have done, is really hard. Tampa should have won that game, but I think Baker, you want him to bounce back, and I believe he will. But he forced things, and that helped the game kind of get out of hand for the Ravens.
Well, I think those interceptions definitely hurt. I'm not going to blame Baker as the number one reason why, given that the defense gave up 5 touchdowns to Lamar Jackson and 41 points. I mean, just starting from that point, it's hard to overcome that. Yeah, seeing Mike Evans go down with a tweaked hamstring. I mean, that was a touchdown that Baker hit him. You saw that play. Hit him, Mike Evans, both hands in the end zone, but he tweaked his hamstring and went out for the game. And then, of course, Chris Godwin, I guess he's done for the season, had a really bad hip drop tackle, ankle.
Dislocated ankle.
Yeah, just a brutal set of circumstances. So now Baker's without his top 2 receivers. I think on that one reception in the end zone, the commentators are saying he never saw him. He just didn't even see the defender. It wasn't so much that he forced it. He just didn't catch that guy was coming in that direction, and he threw right into a problem. But, look, they put 21 points on the board in a flurry. But, of course, if that costs you Chris Godwin, that's not worth it. And people are saying, well, why was he even in the game that late? It's like, look, we complain about the WNBA running out the clock when there's multiple possessions left, going, if there's a chance, grab the ball and shoot it. You don't do that. Grab it and shoot it, kick an onside kick, get the recovery, throw a Hail Mary. If there's a second on the clock, you play to win. So I'll
physically so impressive by the Ravens. They just were very physical in that second half. And
absolutely. Derrick Henry, 169 yards on the ground, just looks like Derrick Henry of his prime for sure. Okay, then let's go ahead and peel off of this. And Mike, maybe do you want to go to your picks? Give us your tips from your Vegas insider there, and tell us what we need to know about the wagering. And so what do you do? Aside from us needing to get like a FanDuel or some sort of sponsorship, as if they would, what apps do you use? I don't even.
I don't really, I just kind of go with my gut instinct, right? Okay. I do. I don't follow like this kind of stuff. Like my friend Jim Mitchell. That's Lucy the corgi, by the way. He studies this stuff and he digs it up. I don't use any apps. If I have a gut feeling about a game, I go up to the casino a mile away from my house and go place a bet. That's what I do. So
gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, what's he telling us this week? And you're how this is your buddy? You're how familiar?
Jim and his wife Regina are good friends of me and my brother Dave. We've spent a lot of time at their house. We watch Seahawks games when they're on prime time. We go over there and hang out with Jim, and he gives me all these tips. And I said, Jim, I'm doing this football show, which I know he watches. Hi, buddy.
What's up, Jim?
So I said, why don't I start putting these tips on the show? So we're gonna give it a try here for the first time today.
Excellent.
So let's see if we can do that. There we go. That people can read it a little better now. All right. So this week's betting tips for the games. Teams that play the Lions are 0-4 straight up and against the spread the week after. So you might think about betting against the Vikings. The Rams are 3-10-1 straight up as a home underdog. Okay. The Titans are 9-6-1 against the spread on the road after a loss. Dogs of 6 or more points are 18-7 against the spread. This applies to the Titans this week. Lions are 27-9 straight up. The Lions are 22-7 against the spread at home. Jared Goff is 30-10 against the spread indoors, and he's playing indoors. And the NFC North is 17-4 against the spread versus non-divisional opponents. Okay, now we flip over to the Ravens. Lamar Jackson is 16-4 in his last 20 games straight up, which is pretty impressive. The Browns, here we go.
Oh, no.
The Browns are 15-24 against the spread after a loss, and the Browns are 8-17 against the spread versus the AFC North. And dogs of 6 or more points, however, are 18-7 against the spread. So if you want to bet the spread, the Browns might be a good bet for this week, but we shall see. We do our calls, straight up.
Okay.
The NFC North is 17-4 against the spread for non-division opponents. This applies to the Jaguars. Kyler Murray is 18-7 against the spread on the road, so he keeps his games close. The Falcons are 5-14 straight up on the road in their last 19 games. We shall see if that applies. Bears are 11-21 straight up in their last 32. The NFC North is 17-4 against the spread versus non-division opponents, like the Redskins. That applies to them. Patriots are 6-1 against the spread versus the Jets. Dogs of 6 or more points are 18-7 against the spread. That applies to the Patriots. Bills are 5-1 straight up versus the NFC. The Saints also have the dogs of 6 or more points, as do the Raiders and the Giants. Both that 18-7 against the spread applies to those teams too. The Bills are 5-1 straight up versus the NFC. They are playing the Seahawks this week, so think about it. Teams that play the Santa Clara 49ers, he's a Seahawks fan, Jim is, so we call them the Santa Clara 49ers, are 11-27 the week after. So the Chiefs might be ripe for a loss after that game against the 49ers. Mahomes is 16-1 straight up indoors. He's 18-1 straight up on the road versus the AFC West. He's 31-5 straight up versus the AFC West, and Mahomes has never lost a game in Las Vegas. Keep that in mind, right here in Las Vegas. Raiders are 8-5 against the spread versus the AFC West. Gardner Minshew is 11-19 against the spread, so if he starts, it's not looking good. The Panthers are 1-11-1 straight up on the road. The Broncos are 10-19 in their last 29 games against the spread. Dak Prescott is 2-9 straight up as a dog, and they are underdogs this week. Teams that play the Lions are 0-4 straight up and against the spread the week after. So the Cowboys are coming off a bye week. Daniel Jones is 1-14 straight up on Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night.
Oh, geez.
Okay. He's 10-5-1 straight up after a loss. That's better. He's 19-9 against the spread as a road dog, and the Steelers are 7-2 straight up in night games, Thursday, Sunday, or Monday, and they're 21-0 straight up on Monday Night Football since 1991. So those are your betting tips for this week before we get to the games.
I like the new segment. This is great. We got to link him up on X, and we need to blast this out once a week. I like this. Nice graph.
I put it up on Twitter X, so everybody should have it.
Make sure you tag us, and then we'll send it out on our side as well.
Yes. Yeah. What are we? By the way, what are we?
Well, the easy one for right now would be the Unhappy Hour _ because it's under the umbrella of the Unhappy Hour Sports Show, and we have Strictly Browns, we have Strictly Football underneath the umbrella of the Unhappy Hour _ But yes, I do need to do the Strictly Football. Let me actually make a note of that.
There you are.
Strictly Football X accounts. Got it. It's on the to-do list. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to take these betting tips. Do you want to do yours first? You want me to do mine first?
As long as I've been doing some screen sharing, we may as well do
it.
Let's go to NFL Game Picker. I want to review last week, week number 7. I went 11-4 last week. I am now 70-37 on the season. So I'm just going to tell you, Brian, you're not going to catch me. And my God, I gotta bet these. I gotta bet these games.
I mean, look, it looks like you might have a knack for this. I don't know.
Yeah.
You tell me.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if it trends that way 2 years in a row. We shall see. I gotta go. I think Vikings and Rams. The Vikings are good. The Rams are not. It would be interesting if Matthew Stafford got traded during the game or right before the game. That would be pretty exciting stuff. So that's tonight's game. I got to go with the Vikings. I think they bounce back from the defeat. The Cardinals versus the Dolphins. In terms of straight up, if Tua is going to play, and we don't know Tua is going to play, but if Tua is going to play, I'm going to take the Dolphins. I don't know. Let me do a quick search. Is Tua going to play or not?
Yeah, I'm looking it up too. Tua play. They're saying the NFL will regret letting Tua play. That's just like, your opinion.
Okay, yeah, no concussion system. I'm gonna take a guess that he's gonna play. So I'm gonna take the Dolphins over the Cardinals on the road. Atlanta at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay bounces back, gets a win over Atlanta. They owe them one because the Falcons stole one from them. Falcons. Browns Ravens. I'm sorry. I got to go with the Ravens to win their 6th in a row, which is exceptional. I just don't see the Browns have enough juice to beat them. Packers Jaguars. I'm taking the Packers on the road. Jags are not going to win 2 weeks in a row, especially after having to travel back from London, right? Yeah, because it's in Jacksonville. So Colts and Texans, I think that's pretty easy. I'm going to take the Texans at home. I think CJ Stroud bounces back. Jets, Patriots. Jets are the better team. I think they get a little bit healthy. Aaron Rodgers comes back a little bit and wins. Philadelphia at Cincinnati. I'm tempted to pick Cincinnati, but they are 3-4. I'm going to go with the hot hand. I think that the Eagles started to get some things together last week. They pull the road upset. Titans at Lions. Easy game to pick. Definitely going with the Lions. Buffalo at Seattle. I would like to pick my Seahawks, but I think it will be a lot of things will have to fall into place. The Bills will have to make a lot of mistakes. The Seahawks have to win the toxic differential battle. I don't think that happens. I'm going to take the Bills to defeat my Seahawks at home. New Orleans versus Los Angeles, 2 teams that are not very good. I think the Saints have lost 5 in a row. Chargers are better. I want the Saints to win. I want Spencer Rattler to play well and win, but I got to go with the Chargers at home. Carolina at Denver. Denver's not really as good as 4-3, but they're good enough to beat Carolina. So I think that's a victory right there. Chicago at Washington ought to be a wildly entertaining game. Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams for the first time.
But will Jaden Daniels be playing in this game?
If he plays.
Sorry, not to mess you up.
I like the Redskins. I do. Raiders, Chiefs. Chiefs go to 7-0. Raiders are just in disarray. 49ers, Cowboys. Wow. Dallas. What was it? What was that stuff about Dallas? Okay, the Cowboys. Dak Prescott is 2-9 straight up as a dog. You know what, Jim? I'm going to take that. I'm going to take the 49ers at home to beat the Cowboys.
By the way, it looks like a game time decision with Jaden. He wasn't practicing yesterday, but
I don't think that he does play, but he might. But Steelers, Giants, easy. Steelers, Russ, in prime time. Take them. Those are my picks.
Gotcha. All right. Well, then let me make my picks here. If you want to look at the screen, my season record is not so glowing.
Not as good as mine. It's not as good as mine.
No, this is more than just the byproduct of me continuously picking the Cleveland Browns to win. I'm making several other unforgivable miscalculations, it seems. But how about another? What's that?
Yeah, you're making some bad assumptions. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's. How about another week of bad assumptions? Shall we?
There we go.
I am very tempted to pick the Rams here. Honestly, being at home, not that it's much of an advantage, but Cooper Kupp, will he be back? Is that for certain? There's a lot of this going on in the league. Will they be back, or is it in and out? I'm sorry, I do have to go. I'd have to be logged in. I did log in. Hold on. Let me refresh.
Re-log in again.
I know I did it.
It says welcome, Brian. There you go.
All right. Okay, so I'm picking Minnesota Vikings there. Arizona, Miami. I think Tua is likely to come back, and I think that they're going to get this victory, and they're going to put their season in on pace. Honestly, I think that they can turn things around. Okay, absolutely. Baker bounced back. Of course, he's down his 2 biggest receivers, but he's been getting some better play out of his running backs. That defense has to tighten up, obviously, but the Falcons looked mortal last week. I'm picking the Bucks. Baltimore at Cleveland. I'm going with Cleveland. This is the upset of the century. I think the Jameis Winston era is going to prevent this winning streak from continuing. Jameis brings the energy. He's a Heisman winner, and people are going to be addition by subtraction with Deshaun out of the building. I promise you, Be ready. This will upset. This will shock the world. Okay, Green Bay, Jacksonville. I'm going with another shocking one.
Wow.
I think Jacksonville is going to put it together because of Tank Bigsby. I think they're getting some different players to step up. They're trying some new things, and I think that they're better than their 2-5 record shows us.
Okay.
Also, over here, Indy and Houston. I really don't know what's going on with CJ Stroud. There's only one game of difference in between these. I got a feeling, but I'm not. I'm going to pick the Texans. Sorry, can't do it.
Smart move there, yeah.
I will go with Drake May until they can, until the Jets can show me a little bit more and consistently. They got a ton of talent, but they're not really putting it together for much, and they're out of excuses. So I don't know. They're putting a lot of pressure on themselves. I think the Patriots are going to win this one. Also, I think the 3-4 Bengals are not as bad as their record shows. The contract holdout from Chase for the first couple games of the season really put them in the hole, but I think they're playing better as of late, and I think that they will beat the Eagles, especially since that's in Cincinnati. Lions take care of Tennessee. I'm picking your Seahawks over Buffalo.
Okay.
Your stadium is loud. That is a 12th man over there for sure. And I just think that that's what's going to happen. I think you're really tough on your team, but I think they're better than you give them credit for. I'm picking Seattle to win. Over here, I'm going to take the Los Angeles.
You think they're going to beat the Bills without DK? All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. Jackson Smith and Jigma is no joke, and it's about time that he got a couple of more targets.
Yeah, so, he needs a big game.
JSN. I mean, he wasn't taken as high as he was from the Ohio State University for no reason.
Right.
So I'm going to root for him there. Look, how about Bryce Young shocks the world as well? I'm going to pick another one here. I know it's in Mile High. I know Bryce hasn't shown us much, but
Brian, I used to think that the reason that I'm beating you in the head-to-head picks is because I'm lucky. But I now know that's not the reason. The reason is you're retarded. That's what the reason is. Dude, seriously. The Panthers? Okay. All right. Okay.
Well, I also have to make up some ground on you. So
yeah, you may as well swing for the fences every time, right?
I'm definitely home run, strikeout, high risk, high rewarding it. Definitely. I mean, come on.
Okay. I just want you to know
I appreciate it.
Right.
And I'm aware that this is a goofy pick, just like the Browns and just like maybe the Patriots, but I'm going for it. The uncertainty at quarterback has me concerned. I'm going to pick the Bears to win this one here.
I think that's a really entertaining, even game, even with Jaden Daniels healthy. That would be going to be a back and forth game.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would say Washington and Chicago are at the top of the list of surprise teams on the season.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 5-2, 4-2. I didn't really have that in my bingo card for 8 weeks into the year.
No.
Kansas City at Vegas. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick the Raiders. I can't pick the Raiders. I want to, but I can't. Dallas at the Santa Clara 49ers. Oh, boy. Man, neither of these teams are playing well.
Well, I picked the 49ers, so why don't you just pick Dallas?
I did before you mentioned it. I'll go with them. Sorry, New York Football Giants. I can't do the same there.
Can't do that. Yeah.
I do pick the Steelers to get this one. And, of course, I'm 45-62 on the season, so a little bit of luck would be –
That's it's not good, Brian. 45-62 is not good.
But I was taught as a kid they don't build those casinos because people go there and win.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big gambling addict. I'm not a junkie. It doesn't impact me. I do this for fun. I play fantasy football over the course of a season.
What I should do is I should go through my picks and I should go and put $50 on or $25 or something reasonable on every game that I picked straight up and just see what happens. You never know. You never know.
I mean,
at 70, what am I? 70 and
2 for 1. Yeah.
You're 70 and 37. I'd be pretty good. I'd be doing pretty well right now.
You're doubled up right there if you just did a money line, right?
There you go.
All right. So what week are you going to do this? Even if it's what is the minimum bet you can make?
Well, you can make any bet you want. I tell you what, you people start sending me money and I'll go place bets on my games and then we'll pool all the money together and give away a grand prize of some kind to the audience at the end of the season. If you guys want to throw in $20 to, I don't know, Zelle, or we'll start a fund. We'll start a PayPal or something, Brian.
The Strictly Football Fund, the SFF, different from the Minnesota Freedom Fund.
Maybe we'll have a trophy made or something. A prognosticator trophy. We'll call it the Jim Mitchell Memorial Trophy in honor of Jim Jim's information.
Okay, yeah, and I'm looking forward to the new Jim segment coming in. That's awesome.
Well, I want to have Jim on, but he couldn't be on today. He couldn't be on last week. I'd like to have Jim just come on and tell us his stats.
Yeah, that'd be a great 10-minute segment to knock us through what's going on and give us the update. No, that's super cool.
Right,
all right, well, then we are getting ready for our first game of the week coming up just in a few short minutes here. Mike, on the way out the door, tell people where to follow you once again and anything you have. Any other events? You selling any books, any tickets, any lecture stuff, what's on the docket? What should people know about?
MikeBara.blogspot.com or just Google Mike Bara, B-A-R-A. I come up along with a lot of other psychotic stuff saying I've lied about that. It's just, there's all these crazy people. But yeah, go out there and just go to the blog. And there's links to all the shows that I do and fun stuff right there. So that's the place to find me. Real News Live with Mike and Jen on Mondays and Wednesdays. Loads of fun. And of course, the most important podcast I do, Strictly Football with me and Brian Engelman. So yeah, I got to get those up there too.
Yes, we got a few things to polish up and finish out, including, like I said, starting that new X account for Strictly Football exclusively. But yeah, we're working on it. And look, we are battling our scheduling conflicts. Life gets in the way. But look, we have gone every single week giving you football breakdowns, information, and hopefully some entertaining, witty banter along the way. Because we like football.
But politics you didn't ask for, but we're going to shove that down your throat anyway.
A little bit of politics you didn't ask for. But
now, by the way, in 2 weeks on election night, we're going to live stream it, and you are going to be part of that if you want to be. So we're definitely going to make extra room for you on that.
Yeah, that's Super Tuesday. That's November 5. That's 2 weeks.
November 5th. Yeah. Even though we fully expect everything to be stolen, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'm envisioning a world where it's going to be a Trump landslide, and like whatever they're arguing about, it's going to be overwhelmed by a couple of. You got New York, you got California, you got what? Like I'm expecting a Mondalian kind of overrun. We shall see.
Yeah, that was a big night, that Mondale night. All right.
So we will do that. I remember doing the live stream, drinking bourbon when Trump was up hundreds of thousands in 2020, going, all right, just ready for the final celebration. Why are they waiting? Well, why are they they paused? What do you mean
they're stealing?
Nobody pauses.
They're going to stay. All right. Let's stick to football. Yeah, so
you brought it up though, good sir.
I did bring it up, but yeah.
We'll be online for the debate, for the election night coverage, of course. And in the meantime, enjoy your football team more than I enjoy my Cleveland Browns and his
just rip it down to the studs, man, and start over. That's what you got to do. Start over with a new quarterback.
New quarterback, new GM, and get rid of Paul DePodesta in the front office. I think it's time for a fresh house in Cleveland.